What's up, guys? This is Zane from Zane Comics, and we're back with another tutorial. Today, we're going to be discussing sound effects part 2. Last time we talked about how to make this wham effect. Today, we're going to show you how to make this rumble effect. Now, the key thing about this effect is you'll probably see it a lot. And in this sound effect, what happens is we can see the image behind the text. And let's get right into it. So I'm going to create a new file. I already have this comic book template, 7" by 10.5, 300 ppi, and let's just create it. So now we have something that looks like this. I want to bring this background image into my new document, and the way you do it is you just click on this layer and you drag it like that, and you'll see that plus sign. That's how you know you get it. So it's pretty simple. You just drag it from another folder and you bring it here. All right, so now that we have this, let's create a new layer. I'm going to hide that layer just so it's not a distraction, and let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to get my text tool, and I'm going to write rumble. However, wait. All right, that looks good. Now, there's a couple ways to approach this. First of all, as we discussed in the last training, you can click the text, go over here, and move around each letter up and down. Sorry. You can do that. But as you can tell, this is going to take a lot of time to do that. So I don't recommend that we go that route. What I would say is we get this file, and we will make a copy of it because I always like to keep a backup. And double click on that. And we're going to right click right here on the layer, and we're going to convert it to a shape. Okay? Now, the very first thing that we should do is go back to our background image and see how do we want to make this look. So I think it'd be pretty cool if it goes across the document. So let me just make this a little bigger. All right. And as you guys may recall from the last training session, you click on this black arrow right here. If you can't see the black arrow, just right click and you'll be able to select the black. It's called the path selection tool. And so click on that. And make sure you click outside and then click into the letter. Otherwise, it's just going to select everything. And so now we can just freely move this around. Maybe connect it a little bit. And as I mentioned, if you guys remember, the way you can change the size of the font is, now that it's a shape, you can just do Control-T and you just do Shift, because I like to keep the same proportions. If you don't click Shift, you can just freely manipulate it, which I would imagine in sound effects that should be fine. And also, if you want to rotate it, you do the Control-T, and then you have to bring your arrow around this box until it makes this kind of shape with the little curved 2 layers, and then you can move it, you can rotate it, and then click Enter to get out of it. Another cool technique is, let's say you feel like you are a few letters short. Just as this is selected, click on Alt, and then just drag this, and then you get another layer, and then you can hit another Alt, and that's how you're going to make copies. Pretty much the same way you would do for any image. And sometimes I get too carried away with this because I have a lot of fun with it. But anyways, I'm going to stop it now just for the sake of this training. All right, so now we have that rumble, but we don't have that effect yet to where we can see the image in the background is just covered, like it's covering over our image. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here and click on blending options. Now for the very first step, I want us to make a stroke. So we're going to go over here and we can do a white stroke. We will change this stroke anyway in a bit. But for this effect, I recommend that you use a stroke position center, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we did that. Now that we have that, here's how we make this black disappear. We go back to blending options, and then you see over here where it says fill opacity. So we have this general blending mode normal. And remember I told you guys these are really cool things. So you can select it and just scroll down to see what it does. And look, it's doing absolutely nothing. It did something there where it says line. Okay, you might be tempted to use this to disappear, to make the background disappear. It only works if the text color was black. If you had any other text originally, like any other color selected originally, it won't disappear. If you have a version of Photoshop where you don't have this next tool that I'm about to show, then I guess you can use make sure your text is black, and then you can hit lighten as your blend mode, and that should work as well. But I'm going to show you for those of you who have this option called advanced blending. And over here it's the fill opacity. Now fill opacity is this black text right here. And so now we can change the opacity just for that. By the way, real quick, I forgot to mention this opacity right here, it changes the opacity for the entire image, including the strokes. And this one will hide or make soft. It'll change the opacity for the text in the middle. So we're going to bring this down all the way to 0. Now this has this white stroke. That looks pretty cool. In a lot of situations, we could just keep it at that. In some situations, we might go over here and add a black stroke to it. And as you can see, it was set in center. If we do it outside, it creates that effect. You can play around with it. Inside, that looks kind of horrible. If you're going to do that, you might as well keep the fill opacity. So don't do inside. Do center. And this is where we can change it to red, like the way I had it. We can do it that way, or we can do the opposite and go back to the original stroke where here it was white and we change it to red. So there's different options that we have. So let's just say we leave it at this. All right. Now I want to show you a technique that most likely you'll use when you're making this comic book. You'll notice that a lot of times these sound effects text tend to hide behind certain images, making it look like it's interacting with the image. So the way we overcome that is we create a mask. And I want to show you an error with masks so you're aware as you're working through it and you don't get startled when you see that. And I'm going to show you how you fix that. So let's work on the mask tool. There's 2 ways to work on a mask tool, but for this session, I'm going to only show you one version, and for another lettering session, I'll show you the different way to do it. So basically, you come on the layer section, go down here where you see this little white box with a circle in the middle. You click on that, and it creates this separate white type of layer with this lock key. Now remember, there's a white bracket around this, if you can see that. If you click here, you'll see that here. Make sure you're selected on the white layer with those brackets. When you click on that, if you look on your left, right here on this section, you'll see you only have 2 colors now. You have black and you have white. And the reason why is, now what we're going to be saying is, anywhere we color on here black, will essentially erase the information, or hide it, not erase it, hide it, which means that we can actually recover that information afterwards, which is very important, because if we just went ahead and erased that information, like if we use the erase tool, first of all, we can't even use the erase tool. Here, I'll show you an example. So let's say we're with this on the text. If you click on the erase tool, it creates this little X. And then if you double click on it, it's going to say, do you want to rasterize this? Basically what that means is it's going to make it into an image, like a PNG. If you click OK, that's it. You can't change the text. You can't move anything around like the way we were doing before. You can't do any of that stuff. And if we use the erase tool to erase something, that's it. It's gone. You won't get that information again. So I don't recommend doing it that way. All right. I'm just going to delete it. I know I created a copy, but anyways. All right, so let's say we wanted to erase this as is, right? It's going to ask the same thing. It's got to be rasterized. Cancel. Do not rasterize the shape. We're not erasing it. what we do is we go over here on this white layer, click on that. We have those two colors I mentioned earlier, and what black means, it's going to hide it. So I'm going to just show you real quick what that means. So let's just draw a little black. You see how it's not doing anything around anywhere else? Oh, sorry, I have the erase tool selected. Click on brush, and I'm going to change the size. Okay, and real quick, a keyboard shortcut to change the size of the brush is the brackets, the right and left bracket. It's the keys underneath the plus and equal sign on your keyboard. So I'm going to right click on the bracket to make it bigger, and I want you to see something. So I'm going to create this black. You see how it's making nothing? You'll see this black color right here on the very top, but it won't show on any of this image. You see that? Now watch what happens when I color over this shape, because we converted to shape. It's no longer text. It's erasing it. See that? Now remember, with the erase tool, we lost that information. Well, if you want to get any of this back, all you do is you switch your colors from here and now make it to where your paintbrush has white, and then you just color right back over it. Or you could use this tool right here and just like the way you would use a paintbrush. So basically it's coloring, but it's giving this information over here to say, hey, where there's black color, that means we need to hide it. Wherever there's white color, we need to show it. And I'll show you how that's beneficial. Now let's say this text we want to hide behind this house, right? And let me bring this lower a little bit so we can actually make it interact. Now let's say I want to hide this text behind this house. Now we'll go back to this brush tool, and remember it was black, so it has to be black. And remember, it needs to be selected here with those brackets. That's how we know. And we are going to make this brush smaller, and we're going to color. I want to show you something. Look at this. It's erasing it, but it's not really doing what we want it to do, because it doesn't look like it's interacting. It just still looks like it's over the, it looks like it's still over the image. You know, it's not blending well. So now the way we fix that is I'm going to delete this layer. And this is what I was talking about. This is how you can typically hide images in normal situations, but in any situation where you add blending modes, it's going to maintain the stroke. So if you try to hide something, it'll still continue to maintain the stroke. So the way you overcome that is, let's just delete this layer for now. Delete layer mask, and that's how you delete layer masks. And we're going to click on this image, right click on it, and we're going to do convert to smart object. Okay, we don't have to double click on here, because you know, if you double click on the convert to smart object, let's say you want to change something, you want to move this, if you want to move one letter, you're going to have to double click here, and then you can move your letters and, you know, change it around here. I'll just do it just so you know what I'm talking about. Click outside and then pick whichever letter you want, and then we move it. All right. Now here's a key. When you move something, it doesn't show automatically here. It doesn't automatically show. So you see how this L looks like that, whereas our L's go kind of up and down. The way if you want to see this change is you're going to have to click save over here, file, save. Once you click save, the updates happen. So see how this got a little lower? It's not straight anymore. Anyways, if you click save and it tells you to save somewhere on the computer, that means you did something wrong. Just, you know, cancel it, go back to this, double click on here again. If it's not working, just start over and create a new, you go over here and create a new smart object. All right. So this is the text we like. We want to hide it behind the houses, and we convert it into a smart object. When we convert it to a smart object, it's like it flattens the image, and now it's not going to maintain the blending modes unless we click blending modes here, which we're not going to do. We're going to go back. We're here. Remember, we click on this white box, creates that white layer with the white brackets around it. We're going to go back to this color tool right here, this black tool, or sorry, the brush tool. And now we are going to color in the house wherever we think it might be, like that. And I know I'm doing kind of roughly, but I think you'll get the point. Where else would be cool to do that? You know, let's say if we want to hide it behind this shack. And maybe we don't want to hide it all the way. Now let's say we did this, right? And we don't want to hide everything here. We can go back and swap this to white. Now whatever, remember I mentioned whatever, if we have white, it's going to say show that information. So we can go back and start calling this like so, and there you go. It's going to start showing that information. We can go back here, and we can probably just start coloring that a little bit. Mess it up, but whatever. You get the point. And that's how you basically do it. That's how you can make your text hide behind images. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I had. It's pretty sweet and simple. I'll go over the next one we're going to do is this text, where basically it's letters in front of other letters where they don't merge like this. And please be sure to subscribe so you know when our next video is out. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.